All right, welcome back. This is Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja, your radio experience that you can count on anytime, any day. And yes, this is the political and current affairs, program that allows for you to, in the course of the discourse, add your voice to the conversation. And we also look at matters that become burning issues. And today we'll be looking at the matter that concerns the NLC, right? Having to, call off, the protest, which is supposed to be for 2 days, but it just lasted for a day. And the NLC, chairman had come out to saying, Ajero's come out to saying, it seems as though some expectations have been met, or rather that he is confident with the turnout as well as the impact that the 1 day, protest is having or has had, on the government to bringing them to, getting to listen to the plight of the Nigerian people. And he has also come out to saying that as against the thought line that speaks about the fact that this strike, this protest was about, minimum wage. He has said, no, it is not about the minimum wage. It is the hunger strike. And he has prioritized hunger over, the minimum wage, saying that there's a lot going on. The hardship in the country is almost unbearable. So we're looking at, the call off on that protest, as well as the 14-day ultimatum that has been given to the Tinubu administration right there, as well as look at what the president also had to say with regards to what's going on in terms of the protests and that's going on in the country, right? So it's no news anymore, the fact that the Nigeria Labour Congress just yesterday had made a 7-point demand to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to assuage the poverty, the hunger, the mass suffering, inflicted on the citizens by policies of the federal government. Now, you might also consider the fact that the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, joined the protest in the capital, that is Ibadan, on the grounds of hunger and anger in the land. Now, this move has been seen by quite some persons, as hypocritical, while others have said that it is in line with solidarity, as he feels the pain, that poor masses or Nigerians are going through on a daily basis. But then again, it also brings to the mind the question of where other governors are, what their position is, in the proposed strike. Recall the fact that allocations to governors has increased drastically, right? If not tripled. And so it is expected that we should not begin to hear that the state government should begin to, live up to expectation and begin to, bring the proof of, governance, to bear in their respective states. But then again, leaders of the NLC had also, suspended the 2-day nationwide strike and the protest after the first day. They said that the suspension was based on the fact that the street action achieved overwhelming success. Now, in a communique at the end of its National Executive Council meeting yesterday in Abuja. Now, meanwhile, on the first day of the nationwide, protest yesterday, the NLC had, in delivering in a letter to the president titled "Tackling the Crisis of Survival and Mountain Destitution in the Land, What Must Be Done Now," signed by the president, Joe Ajero, had said that sequel to the recent nationwide protest called by the National Executive Council, that is the NSC of the NLC, it is our considered opinion, this is me quoting him now, that we write to you at this time of great national distress that has left a huge majority of the citizenry workers massively impoverished and hungry. So it's just about bringing the attention of the president to what's going on. But I said we're going to look at the 7-point demand by the 17-point demand of the NLC, right? But before we also do that, it is also very noteworthy to look at the October 2 2023 agreements that they had, the NLC had with the then, government of Muhammadu Buhari administration. Now, one of such was the fact that the federal government should grant a wage award of 35,000 naira, only to all federal government workers beginning from the month of September, pending when a new national minimum wage is expected to have been signed into law. Another is a minimum wage committee should be inaugurated, right, with 1 month from the date of this agreement, that the federal government suspends collection of value-added tax on diesel for 6 months beginning from October 2023, that the federal government also accepts to vote 100 billion naira for the provision of high-capacity compressed natural gas vehicles, or buses, if you like, for mass transit in Nigeria. Provisions, are to be made for initial 55,000 CNG conversion kits to kickstart an auto gas conversion program. And then they also said that the federal government should plan to implement various tax incentives measures for private sector and the general public, and on the leadership crisis that had rocked the NURTW and the purported prescription of RTEAN, that the federal government commit to handling labor matters in line with relevant ILO conventions and Nigerian Labor Acts, and that there should be an issue of outstanding salaries, wages of tertiary education workers in federal, owned educational institutions, and is supposed to be referred to the Ministry of Labor and Employment for further engagement. That the federal government commits to paying 25,000 naira per month for 3 months starting from October 2023 to 15 million households, including vulnerable pensioners. We all know how that is panning out now, even though the Tinubu administration has said that it will continue. It will look into still, reviving the pay to many Nigerians, as well as the fact that we have an issue that has to do with the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the Edu saga and all of that. But then it also said in their 15 points agenda that they set for the past administration president then, that the federal government should urge state governments through the National Economic Council and Governors Forum to implement wage awards for their workers, right? And that the federal government commits to the provision of funds as announced by the president on the 1st of August, broadcast to the nation. Micro and small scale, enterprises, the MSMEs beneficiaries should commit to the principle of decent jobs. And of course, a joint visitation should be made to refineries to ascertain their rehabilitation status, and that all parties commit to henceforth abide by the dictates of social dialogue in all our future engagement, that the NLC and TUC accept to suspend for 30 days the planned indefinite nationwide strike scheduled to begin Tuesday, the 3rd of October 2023. That was last year. And finally, that the memorandum, this memorandum should be filed with the relevant courts of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as consent judgment by the federal government. Now, that was in 2023 right there. But then in 2024, as it stands right now, the NLC has made fresh demands added to it and made it about 17 points. So 17 point agenda right there, calling on the president to look into this. Now, one of such suggestions is a reopening of land borders, right, to allow food, cement, and other essentials to come in. Emergency measures to ensure food security around the country, including ensuring that farmlands are secured so that farmers can return to the land. Proposing an immediate removal of collection of levies, fees, dues, and tolls from petty traders across the nation by local and state governments. And then immediate implementation of the October 2nd, 2023 agreement reached with the government, and then an immediate purchase and deployment of CNG electric buses across all states. They talked about the composition of a team of relevant stakeholders to monitor and supervise all federal government intervention funds in the interest of Nigerian people. Now, there's a lot of it, going on, even with the fact of removal of VAT and all of that. Yeah, but then a lot is still being, left to be said, because there is, I know that there are some calls that says that the strike is somewhat insane, that it was not necessary. If you recall that at some point, one of the spokespersons to the president, in the person of Ajurin Galale, had come out to saying that it was just pointless because talks were already, on the way regarding how to meet some of these needs. In fact, the only need that is yet to be met would have been the minimum wage, which I think the NLC is looking at 100,000 naira to be the minimum wage. But then President Bola Tinubu has also come out to, telling Nigerians that, look, I assure you, as your president, that the economic situation will improve and that the pains will give way to prosperity. And that's what the president said right there. He has also assured every Nigerian, urging us to not be in despair. He said things would get better. So still preaching the message of renewed hope, the president had pointed out that we might be going through, a difficult period now, but when you look at some of the infrastructure that's put in place, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Budget and National Planning, and the caliber and integrity of those people manning the ship of this country, including the Central Bank of Nigeria governor, that you would find that they have collaborated, in the spirit of development and progress, to stay committed to retooling, to re-engineering and financing, the finances of the country and making growth the hallmark. Now, the president also spoke, during the unveiling of, the Expatriate Employment Levy Handbook. He described the EEL scheme as another game changer and highlighted its advantages to include better employment opportunities for Nigerians with foreign companies, bridging the wage gap between Nigerian employees and expatriates in foreign companies operating in Nigeria, and boosting national security. That's one of it. And that it's going to bring about revenue generation improvement, improved naturalization and indigenization, employment of more Nigerians by foreign companies operating in the country, balancing of employment opportunities between the Nigerians and expatriates, and closing the wage gap that seemingly is growing between the expatriate and the Nigerian labor force by making it more attractive to hire Nigerians. And the last point, of course, that the president has, in his goodwill message right there, said that it will plug loopholes and gaps that have bedeviled the country in dealing with security challenges and the movement of foreigners in and out of the country. All right, so that's it. But the president has also warned those who may want to become bottlenecks to the scheme against turning into another bureaucratic, edifice or persons capable of destroying potential investors coming in to invest in the country. Now, also, the House Representative Speaker Tajuddin Abbas has urged Nigerians to also exercise some levels of patience and cooperation with the government in its bid to effectively and efficiently implement the economic reforms that will soothe the pains of Nigerians. He also went on to saying that he feels the pain of the labor, and that he knows that if given the time, just as the same thing that the president is asking for, patience, more time and all of that, that a lot of palliatives, reviews of salaries, welfare packages are most likely coming on board right in the near future, and that the president and the speaker in this regard had spoke on the prospect of economic recovery yesterday as workers had staged protest in the state capitals and the federal capital territory over the high cost of living. So the Minister of Labor, for states has also come out to saying that, well, they've met these demands, but the only one that seemingly seems to not be met might just be the one that concerns, the wage in itself, right? The one that concerns the wage might just be the demands that have not been met. But then If you look at its, this entire process critically, you will discover that the situation is describing or reflecting a widespread concern among each and every one of us as Nigerian workers about the economic hardship that has been exacerbated by policies, such as the removal of fuel subsidy, the depreciation of the naira. The demands presented by the NLC encompass various aspects of addressing this hardship, including immediate relief measures, wage awards, and policy adjustments to mitigate inflation and also to increase the purchasing power. Now, the involvement of state governors and other stakeholders demonstrates some levels of urgency, and gravity to the situation. While there are also some school of thought that says that the NLC disregarding the fact that the TUC and some other agencies and all of that bodies had backed out on the strike, had shown some levels of courage to embark on the strike, also goes a long way to telling that the NLC is somewhat independent and can actually come out and speak on behalf of the people. But others are still crying foul, saying that the NLC, having to cut short that protest, rather, was, a show of lily-liveredness, right? That they're being lily-livered, they're not being very, very, stern with the needs of the masses. They're not feeling the pain as the masses feel the pain, and that it is almost to nothing. And then it brings to question a couple of concerns, right? How do we then perceive the ongoing confrontations, between the NLC and the government regarding economic policies and workers' welfare? Should we, because some quarters, some persons feel as though that the NLC has not been representative of them, right? Should we, because of that, nullify the efforts of the NLC? Could it also mean that the NLC probably has decided not to collaborate or corroborate with other, relevant, agencies or bodies to ensuring the effectiveness of this protest? Now, in your own opinion too, questions also arise that border around what are the underlying factors driving the tensions between labor unions and the government, and how does this impact the ordinary man? How does it impact us? When businesses are being put on hold and all of that, some persons think it's just about the country being put on hold. No, even you as a person, you become somewhat unproductive, right? But then it also goes in line to looking at the fact that what measures should then be taken, from the government to address the root cause of economic hardship and to alleviate, the sufferings of citizens right there. Well, I'm going to be throwing, the lines open right now so that you could let me know what you think about this, or what's your perception of the protest as put together by the NLC. Do you think that has some impact? Do you think that it will indeed get the government, to speaking, honestly, or looking into these issues, or is it just another play by the book and all of that? Especially seeing that the spokesperson to the presidency had come out to saying that it was pointless, it was unnecessary, and that since talks were already on the way, the NLC, it should be faulted, for having gone through with the strike. And then the concerns that that border around the fact that, hey, there's been proposed strikes, from the past administration. They're still with the same, NLC chairman right there, or president right there, Joe Ajero, that didn't quite come to fruition. And then it makes you wonder how very quickly, even when he didn't quite have a lot of support from the likes of the TUC and some other bodies that backed out at the last minute, crying foul and saying that they were not involved or they didn't reach an agreement for, joint or unification protest right there. So they backed down and all of that. Do you think that the NLC has not probably been working or has been working individually on its own, to wanting to push for its, whatever it is that it is pushing for, because some persons say the NLC is not representing them, but quite a number of persons still have the belief and trust in the NLC, to do the needful, to become that pressure group, that pressure broad body, to get the government to looking into matters that concern the Nigerian civil service as well as the workers, and to improving the lives of Nigerians right there. Remember, Joe Ajero said that it is not a minimum wage protest, it is a hunger protest right there. And it just makes you wonder how we've come to this point where the demand, one of the such demands that we get to demand from our government it should be the fact that we want to eat. And there are also some school of thought that believe that it is this exploitation, it is this very point that some unscrupulous politicians use to exploit the masses during the period of elections and all of that. If we can just hand them a sachet of maybe gari and groundnut with sugar, as we saw in the past administration right there during campaigns, they will just be fine. That's just what it is. Could it be that this is something that has been there, right, but has only snowballed into this worsening situation that we are experiencing today in the country? 0907-353-0044 is that number to call. The other number is 0908-766-8888. The WhatsApp portal number is 0909-705-4450. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
This is Moses.
All right, Moses, where are you calling from?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
I was able to connect with you because there's a lot of callers on your line this morning.
Oh, okay. I get it.
I think it's a good one.
Okay.
The NLC demonstration was quiet and it was matured.
Okay.
Especially the one we heard about the Lagos, where even police begin to give out biscuit and water. This is professional security that they have exhibited, and I believe even in the national news I heard it this morning, how professional it is for this demonstration to take place without any crisis. So it's a plus to the understanding of our country and development.
Right.
But the issue is, a father that knows the cry of his child, you don't need someone to put you under pressure before you know what is good for your children.
Right.
Why should NSC come up to to go ahead for strike before they can meet the demand that is good for their workers? It shouldn't be so. If you implement a system and you know the consequences of this system, you weigh the advantage and the disadvantage. What advantage did it have to the government, and what advantage did it have to the ordinary Nigerians? Then you look at the disadvantage. You measure it up before you come up to bring that policies on the ground. The policies you have implemented, that policies become a challenge on the ground, and people are crying. Look at these people that vote you there. They voted you there. There are high expectations and what it demands for you to be in a leadership position with dividends on the ground. When you go to that high position and you begin to see that the people that vote you there, they are crying, you should bring what will wipe away their tears.
Right.
That is the policy you should obtain. Now look at it now.
Okay.
Like the issue of oil subsidy. From last year down to this year, I believe that there are a lot of money that have come into the government purse. Which one of it they say that they pay external debt, 90% external debt to you. But excuse me, will you continue to pay much on external debts while your son or your children are dying? At least you say 90% are gone to the external debt. That's what they told Nigerians. They pay 90%, over 90% to external debt. And this, are you being placed on pressure to pay this external debt? why your economy is has collapsed,
All right.
why the dollar,
Yeah. All
our
right.
naira cannot make more to dollars.
Yeah, Moses. In about, let's say 10 seconds. Let's just have you wrap up so we can hear from every other person.
It's okay. It's okay. I finally want to talk like this.
All right. Thank you so much, Moses, for that one. Appreciate it.
The 17 demand
Yes.
of the 17 agenda defined by the NLC.
Yes, please.
The government should still go ahead. At least they should measure up to approve what is needful, especially the major one that is needful at this time. So they shouldn't silence over these issues.
All right. Very well said, Moses, right there. Thank you for that one. And please, as we get into the conversation, let's try to make our points very, very straight to the point and precise. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Yudi.
Yes, please. Good morning to you. What's your name?
This is Abubakar calling you from Babylon. How are you? How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you, Abubakar. Let's have your thoughts.
Before this time, some of us have known that the NLC protest was just a RNG to preempt any possible genuine protest by those affected negatively by economic indices of this government. Top policies that continue to impoverish millions of more Nigerians, destroying their means of livelihood, killing trade, businesses and investment, throwing people into labor market, making everybody youth going for JATA. So even our profile as a country is dropping. Of recent, it was in the news that in South Africa and Egypt they have overtaken us in terms of economic growth. So I don't know who is benefiting from the policies and programs of this government. They are plunging Nigeria into abyss of abject poverty and hunger. And the Nigerian Congress can carry out their caricature protest, but a genuine protest is coming. A hunger-driven protest is coming. When Papa, Mommy, youth will come out, they will be thrown on the street. They will let the government of Tinubu that we are not slaves. Now, among all the indices of IMF recommendation, the Tinubu has implemented about 4. The last one is when he adopted Orensonya report. I know that it is truly a policy of NFM loan, because firstly you have to remove all form of subsidies.
Right.
You have to devalue the currency of your country by 60%. You have to abolish price control. Now price have jumped onto the rooftops. Most of Nigeria cannot.
Yeah. For want of time, let's just wrap it up already. Yeah?
Thank you
so much, Abubakar. All right, that is what it is. I'm going to try to attempt to give some update as to how it went down in some of these states, right? As we know, in Ondo State, in Akure, Ondo State, the leaders of the NLC had led their members to protest against hardship in the country, and protesters had marched through Alagbaka GRA to the governor's office to deliver a labor message to Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. And the chairman of the NLC in the state, Mr. Victor Moko, said the peaceful protest is to register the people's grievances against poor policies of government and, of course, untold hardship, facing the country. And the governor, Aiyedatiwa, had responded to that. Osun State also had a similar organized labor, in collaboration with the civil society organization, joining the nationwide protest right there against economic hardship in the country, as well as Ogun State. Workers were also part of that, protest that went down yesterday. Well, let's still keep your calls coming through. Still have your thoughts on it. There's been some questions that have been raised about the originality of this protest and what the outcomes would possibly be. What do you think the outcomes will be? Would it be, play into the gallery as usual, or this time is it more determined? Hello,
good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, please. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is Omotayo reaching you from Galadimawa.
All right, Omotayo, let's have your thoughts.
Yes, Doctor, permit me to represent Nigerians today. I mean, whatever I'm going to say, I'm speaking the minds of Nigerians whom are downtrodden, whom are more than 80% feeling the brunt of whatever is going on in Nigeria today. I am actually sending this message to the NLC president to let him know that, look, if you are representing the people, please represent them properly by reaching out to the people whenever you want to take a certain step. You don't represent people and then you take steps without letting the people know. Look, if NLC is representing Nigerians, then every time NLC wants to take a decision, you should let the people know. It is almost not reasonable when you are representing the people. You people believe, you people trust you that okay, you declared a 2-day rally, and then you did 1 day, and then all of a sudden you call the rally off. Nigerians don't even know why you called it off. Now you are giving us one funny explanations. Look, we don't understand English. More of us that are suffering the brunt of what is going on in Nigeria today, we don't understand English. They should stop speaking more people English for us, to us. What we understand is, look, we talk to the people. Look, we are the grassroots. We are the government. And democracy has it. The people are the government, not those representing us. We are the real government. So if you are doing anything, you are taking any decision, it's only right that you reach out to your people first. Say, well, people, look, you see, we are the reason why even the president doesn't even see, did it see to address the Nigerian people whenever there's a problem of that. We have the people. Yes, because leaders don't bother about the people they are ruling. They just take decisions and favor them at their own will. We don't like it.
All right, I'm tired.
We don't like it. Carrying the people along.
Okay, carry the people along. Right. All right, Omotayo, thank you. Omotayo right there saying that it's high time we carry the people along to just make decisions on your own. If you're saying you're representing the people, then represent the Nigerian people fully. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, my dear brother Udrak.
Good morning to you.
Thank you. This is Alamin from our central area. Udrak, you must understand that, you know, when people call radio stations to wail and speak ill of the government, always remember that they have political affiliation. Some of them supported and are still article boys. You know, these are people that were preaching, you know, unity and were preaching one Nigeria, but they wanted another flag to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari for nothing, for their own selfish interest. So, almost a year after the election, you know, these are people that have refused to move on from the election, and then the only thing they do is to come and wail and lament and speak ill of the government and then the president. I have to say this, so when you hear people speak passionately, I wish you had heard it before the election. It's purely about partisan politics. And then going forward, you know, on the NLC, I think, you know, NLC has done well with the protest yesterday.
Right.
And they have made their concern known. The president heard them very loudly. And then, like I said, I do not really believe in protest, because at the end of the day, what, you know, does it? Protest does not solve economic problems. And when you're hungry, do you protest, or you take action, you know, to ensure that, does protest grow our GDP?
But is protest not a kind of action? I mean,
no, yeah, it is, but it has nothing. It does not influence a policy of the government. The protest, does it affect economic policy, you know, to fast track it, to start bringing in the plus, when you're going to the short-term impact of it. Does protest just make that short-term impact just, you know, disappear overnight and then transform and throw all of us into an Eldorado? I think NLC, you know, are beginning to understand this, and they're calling off the protest. They are not. I think people have a complete different mindset about protest.
Right.
Protest is not about burning down. It is not about shutting down the country. If you want to do that, NLC does not need to do it for you. You can gather your family members and go and shut down Aspen.
No, come on. That's a bit too. No, that shouldn't be an advice. That shouldn't be an advice you should give like that.
You could hear that people are saying, why did NSC do this? NSC will not fight your battle for you. The primary responsibility for the NSC is even those of us that are the civil servants. And 90% of what are fighting for are the civil servants' rights. The minimum wage is part of it, and the wage award is part of it. The CGM forces that the federal government promised. So if you are not a civil servant, NSC cannot fight for you. If you feel NSC is not fighting, it's not for you. You organize your own peaceful protest. Don't expect people to always fight your battle.
All right, thank you.
And organize your own peaceful protest.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that one from you, though. Alrighty, says the NLC does not protest, or does not fight for you if you want to protest. But it is also foolhardy to want to think that should the NLC's demands be met, it would not have some positive impact, in the lives of every citizen of the country, because it is only natural to see that if we can make a substantial part of the country to live at least above $1. I mean, now we're not even living above $1. Now we're living in cents, under cents now, right? I mean, who can afford $1? I mean, $1 rose as high as at 1,600, and it is only piping low now, if I'm not mistaken, maybe around 1,005 or something. Even though the CBN is trying to peg it at 1,300 and something, and so all of this, yeah. Before we used to say we living under $1. Now you can't even afford living under cents. Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning to you, please. Yes, please. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Felix from Lambata.
All right, Felix. Welcome aboard. Let's have your thoughts.
They are telling us that protest does not influence government policy. Who says that? You can see the naivety of some of these free government spokespersons. Well, thank God, the pain and the poverty and the suffering cut across political line. So whatever political affiliation you have, you are going through the same suffering, the same pain they are all going through. So that is my only consolation. I'm not a labor man, I'm not a party man, I'm just a gentleman doing my farm work and selling my product in the market of Lambata and make my living neat. Thank you very much. Labor, if they are not serious, please don't take Nigerians for granted. Stop this kangaroo protest. When they settle you, you call off. We are more than that. Stop abusing the sensibility of Nigerians. Come out for serious business. Nigerians will support you, but if you continue like this, I tell you, with time, Nigerians will look down at your protest.
But Felix,
thank you very much.
Felix, just before you go, there are no proofs. Do you have a proof that the label was settled by any kind of person? It would only be a misinformation to go there.
I didn't say so.
Okay.
I didn't say they were settled. I wasn't there. If they were settled, I have no evidence to that.
Right.
But the thing is that the way they call it off is questionable.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, questionable the way it has been called off, and that's what Felix has to say right there. Right. Let me try and lay my hands on, the part where from the presidency, right? There was some sort of response from the presidency, so I can just put it in this exact way that it was said, right? But then we're still talking matters that concern the NLC calling off the strike. Some say it is questionable. Some say it was rather abrupt. Some say that the people were not carried along, that they expected more from the NLC right there. And others say that the NLC is not collaborative in nature. The likes of I think Nance, right, had pulled out from the strike. The likes of the TUC had come out from the strike saying, hey, we are not, we're not aware. I mean, the whole I'm not aware thingy of this protest that you're coming out for, and we feel that there has been some progress that's been made by the president or the administration looking into these matters and trying to implement these. You might just be overheating the polity by getting into this protest. And even some government, agencies or the spokesman for the government has said, in fact, quoting from him, it says it is needless. It is a needless, demonstration. That there were better ways to have looked into this. And it just still echoes the thought of, why is it so hard for agreements to be reached and such agreements implemented in a gentlemanly way? Why does it have to snowball into protest or some harder, processes just to be heard? That question is very vital there, because I'm sure that if you also follow these, the political terrain, you might want to identify with what I've just said now. I mean, it has to just get to a point of zero where everybody now is almost, on their toes and all of that. Why do we always have to wait for that time? Why can't we just sit back, and address these issues? Because we know that these issues are lingering. It has been lingering. And just like what went down where Ozekeme had come out to saying that it is almost laughable and shameful, the fact that successive administrations will come into power, and the next thing they would say is, what I came to meet is this and this and that. It's pretty hard for me to navigate based on what I saw. The past person was not giving me or didn't leave anything for me. Ambode has also come out to say that, saying that the administration should not be blamed for whatever is going on, that it was inherited, right? And now Zekome is saying that, why do we always go back to the point where we keep calling past administrations? If you feel that a past administration had not done well or had engaged in some corrupt practices, why do we have these agencies? Shouldn't they also be brought to book? But then another school of thought would say that you've come to meet what you've come to meet. Let the past go. Let's just forge ahead, and get things done rightly, because the more we keep bickering on who did this, who did not do that, we might just be wasting our time, precious time that would have been spent on putting together policies that should help the country, that should help the common man. We spend in trying to tackle those who had left offices before. But for you though, is it okay? Because the House of Reps has said they will be looking into the 30 trillion naira, monies from the past administration that was somewhat vanished, or misappropriated, and that they might be calling that administration back to book. Don't you think that this is probably part of what the NLC is, also pushing for, some levels of accountability, within the system, so that everyone would see the government for what it is, and where the government is not doing well, they could just, tell the government that this is what you need to do, and where the government needs help, the CSOs and every other, well-meaning Nigerians can also look into it. And then the NLC have also said that the federal government should try as much as possible to reduce its somewhat dependency on the predictions of the IMF and the World Bank and all of that, that it is high time our government's begun to look inwardly and begun to call a spade for what a spade is, and not an overgrown spoon. But I still want to know what you think though. What do you think? Do you think that this meeting, the NLC has given another ultimatum to the federal government right there, saying that, well, we will give you this ultimatum, we'll give you this time, and I think the time should elapse on the 13th of March 2024. right? The 13th of March 2024, this 14-day ultimatum or 14-day ultimatum would, be out, will be done. And do you think that the federal government, and the NLC would have reached a truce, a compromise? Do you also think that there'll be light at the end of a tunnel? Because the president, in addressing the country, the Nigerians had said that we should give a little more time, just a little bit patience, that he is on top of the situation. And he has also called out certain persons who man certain ministries, under him, saying the likes of Ministry of Finance and National Planning and Budget, right there, talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria, the governor of Central Bank, and talking about some of these key notable people, right? And talking about the Central Bank governor, the House of Reps has also said that they didn't have any trust, or they were not really they're not very, very convenient, or they're not very convinced, that's the word, convinced with the reforms that Olayemi Cardoso is putting together right there, and they've summoned him to come before them to speak on these matters. But in the midst of all of this, the president, is calling out to Nigerians and saying that, look, just give me time, give me patience. And there've also been calls saying that, we should also look at the fact that the president is doing his best. I mean, it's almost a year, but that does not mean that there has not been some reforms ongoing, and that we should only wait, a little while longer. And before we know it, these reforms will begin to find fruition, in our lives, one way or the other, whether it be economic, whether it be education, whether it be health, and all of that. Right? You can still let me know what you think. 0907-353-0044 is that number to call. The other number is 0908-766-8888. Do you think that there's going to be indeed light at the end of the tunnel? Would the government indeed, waiting an answer, meet all of the expectations, as the NLC has put together? One of such is the fact that the NLC is saying that they're directing the purchase and use of made in Nigeria goods and services to stimulate the production and save jobs. They've also talked about the fact that as part of their 17 points appeal to the federal government right there, or demands, they've said immediate reduction in the cost of governance in Nigeria at all levels to reflect the nation's tight fiscal position. And they've also gotten into the place where they say halt immediately the implementation of all IMF and World Bank policies in Nigeria. Will that even speak well, for Nigeria, should that happen? And Okay, so they went on to saying that they have not only worked anywhere, but they brought extreme hardship, which imperils our nation's security and undermines our sovereignty as a nation. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, Udwak.
Good morning to you.
I'm John from Suleja.
All right, John, let's have your thoughts.
Yeah, you see where people are so disappointed, just like me too. So
Right.
disappointed with Nigerian Labour Congress over the sudden withdrawal of that protest. Just like some people have mentioned on that review, people need to be carried along. And one of the demands I expected from Labour Congress to put down in federal government is continue subsidizing that petrol. Continuously subsidizing it. You don't just go and borrow money and give National Assembly, give them and continue giving them for something that I cannot explain. And while transportation, you know that some transportation is one of the biggest problem on our hand. That if a trailer can carry a goods from, just like somebody saying in the morning, from far north down to Abuja here, do you know how much it will cost? This is a result of all these things that are skyrocketing in the market. See, petroleum we are operating on oil economy,
and anything you do that is not favorable to that one will come back to the public. Now we are not finding it funny. I expected that would be the demand and they stand on it, even if it is one of it, that very one, and they make their followers know that this is our demand and we are not backing down with this demand. Rather than offer all of a sudden, before you sleep and wake up, they say they have postponed the protest. Tomorrow will you call people again to come and join you and to do the same thing? Because this is not the first time you are backing down. Before they give people hope, before you know, they back down. And this is not the first time. People are angry, people are disappointed, and I am equally disappointed with NLC. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Right there, is no news. The fact that the situation actually calls for or reflects a widespread concern among Nigerian workers about the economic hardship, and it is quite evident that there are calls for urgent action from the government to alleviate the suffering of the populace. So those who are against the protests, might probably want to understand the fact that the protests serve as a platform to amplify these concerns and pressure the authorities into taking tangible steps to addressing them. Right now, the suspension of sittings at the State House of Assembly in solidarity with the workers further underscores, the significance of these demands. Ultimately, the key lies in effective dialogue. I mean, we can't say that enough. There's been that talk about the need to have effective dialogue and concrete actions by the government to address the root causes of these economic woes that face the country. I mean, it's just only natural that we are able to nip it in the bud, go back and find out and try to be honest, because there is the place of honesty some have judged is probably why we are feeling or finding, this back and forth between the NLC and the government. And it's not just about the NLC and the government, about the people and governance too. Should there be some honesty in a process, maybe, just maybe, then we would be able to say that we are truly, to a very large extent, a part of the polity and the politics, of our country. I mean, the conversation is trended. Let's look into the WhatsApp portal to see what we have with the WhatsApp portal right there. We've got this one via the WhatsApp portal number, and this one says, "Good morning, Daniel. Good morning to you." It says, "I'm listening to you from Kara local government. Nasarawa State, thank you for joining in." It says, "I want to commend NLC for calling off the protest. I don't encourage such now, because if it goes on for days, bad elements will hijack it and start causing havoc. What I hate most is seeing some protesters lose their lives. I'm begging INEC, to fear God and conduct elections that truly show the people's will, so that if any leader, whether sitting or past, misbehaves, that of course the rule of law and the constitution in itself would be able to get through to them and mete out the justice on such a person." Well, anyway, Stickenby Hundu has got that one to say. Thank you too much, Stickenby. Appreciate that one from you. Still get the calls coming through, but I cannot take any further. But then we'll have this conversation tomorrow, same time, same station. But I want to say a big thank you to you. I mean, the more we drive this conversation, the more we drive this discourse, I am very hopeful, and I'm 100%, sure that things will only get better. It only gets better with the coming day. So thank you, Far Too Kind. Let us have this, conversation, on the Eagles Outlook tomorrow, same time, same station. Until then, my name is Udwak Daniel.